So when we want to coach plyometric drills, especially the lower extremity, the first thing we need to teach people is how to land. So before you teach them how to jump, you got to teach them how to land. Because sometimes we have to absorb the impact forces, which is relatively easy to do on most jumps. But sometimes we also have to do what? After we absorb that impact force, we also have to explode into a second or subsequent jump. That becomes a bit more challenging. So in a subsequent video, I'll show you the different levels of plyometric training. But for this video, what I want to show you is just how to teach the jump landing mechanics. And so if you think about it, right, in the lower extremity, when we land, we want to land and really engage the posterior chain. Why? Because you're using a lot of elastic energy. If you just stop and hit the ground, that means all that impact force, that reactive force, is going to go into your bones. Two reasons. That's going to create some joint issues over time. But number two is, if there's a need to move right after that, the hard structures like your bones don't absorb any energy, which can then be released. So as we load tissue eccentrically, we are actually harnessing that energy into what we call potential energy that we can then release subsequently into kinetic energy, or the energy of motion. So the whole point of landing is to actually use the soft tissue. So it's really about triple flexion, where we land and we hit with the midfoot ball of the foot. I'm on my toes right now. And we drop the heel, and that's starting to really do what? Start to load into the plantar fascia and the muscles in the lower extremity. And then we start to do what? Hinge. And now we start to lower into the hip muscles, and we drop into this position. And that's how we absorb a jump, or that's how we land from a jump. So the way to teach it is just to get people to kind of just go up onto their toes and just to drop into that hinge. Go up into the toes, drop the hinge. And we generally say nose over toes, all right? So we just kind of teach this pattern right here. And then I just teach a bit of a swing. I talk about cheek to cheek here, and we just teach this pattern. And then every now and again we say just do a little jump and land. Now the key thing on that landing is that it needs to be very silent. So this would not be how you want someone to land. Here they are, toes over nose, cheek to cheek, and then you say jump, and they stop that landing. There's no absorption of that impact force because we hit flat-footed, and all that impact is going to the hard structures. If we, by comparison, have our movement like this, where we just simply land, we're absorbing that energy from the front. It's very critical that you're watching individuals, because when we land, that degree of instability can force the knees in. So we see a lot of instability in the knees. Now again, is that something at the ankles or something at the hips? That's where a movement screen would help you identify. But generally what you want to see is, as someone is landing, that the knees stay aligned over that second toe. And not just on the landing, also on the push-off, because when we're in a position here where we're not very strong, I might push off by driving my knees inward. So I need to watch from the front to make sure your knees tracking straight up and down, and you're not seeing this, or here pushing off like that. Track those knees. You can bring people into the ladder, and you can just have them do a series of jumps. Nothing big, just. And what you're also trying to teach is foot orientation. That's why the ladders become very effective, because what I want to see in the air is you having spatial awareness of where your feet are going. Because if you start here and you land there, that's not a very stable position. Your feet need to transpose themselves so that your foot starts here, it lands there. We're not seeing this or that, all right? And we can then take the jumps into different directions. If I'm going sideways, same thing. Look at the transition of the feet. Keep the feet exactly the way they were lined. Don't let the feet change directions. So a ladder drill can be a great way to introduce what we call multiple linear jumps. But the ladder helps people become very self-aware of what we call that spatial awareness in terms of where their feet are from 1 foot contact to the next.